All right, let's talk some offense here, which to me is not a huge concern. I think it seems like for fans, and I'm maybe judging this based on my YouTube comments, a lot of people are worried about the offense. I'm not. I
Okay.
understand it, though. I think it's because so much of the lack of playoff success in these small sample size series, whether it's Dodgers a couple years ago or against the Phillies, has been a lack of offense. But the Cardinals were pretty dang good, like top three National League in the offensive categories that matter. And to me, I don't worry about the infield. Outfielders, to me, you have this bucket of guys. There's like 5 or 6 of them. I can't tell you who's going to be good, but I have, or who's going to stay healthy, but I have a lot of confidence that 3 or 4 of them will, and that's enough for them to be a good offense.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. The way they've exited the postseason the last number of times is frustrating. I mean, you could even go back to the Padres series in 2020, that game 3 they didn't score, and when they were eventually ousted in the LCS against the Nationals in 19, they had advanced to the LCS. That was good, but the offense just didn't really come through in that series either. And so I understand that concern, but like when you look at it, you go, okay, you had 2 of the top 3 MVP guys in the NL in your lineup, and those guys are coming back. That's good. You've replaced what, no offense to Yachty, was a black hole at the catcher position offensively last year. I mean, it was bad. And you replace that with Wilson Contreras, a guy that you think can probably OPS 800, get you 20 dingers. They'll probably bat him 5th. I think that'll be pretty good. Okay, Lars Nootbaar is like the potential breakout star. Everybody's waiting to see what he's going to do next. And his numbers last year, if you take out the first couple of months when he was going back and forth to AAA and just wasn't getting to play, he was pretty good last year already. So you've got that, and then you've got the OBP guys like a Brendan Donovan, a Tommy Edman that are going to mix in. What do they do with DH? I think that's sort of the question to me, because last year it was like Nolan Gorman, we don't want him to be a DH. We want him to play. And then he wasn't playing because he wasn't hitting consistently. And so for all the talk of left-handed power bat, they didn't go out and get somebody because, as Mo said at winter warm-up, maybe those guys who were in that role couldn't really picture themselves with the Cardinals because they say, well, you've got guys like that. I don't really know if I'm going to get a chance to play. The Cardinals might have to actually commit to a guy like Gorman. If they weren't going to trade him this offseason, which I thought they might to try and fill some of their needs, they could say, all right, Gorman, you're going to play, and we're not going to take you out of the lineup when you go through a slump, because we think at the end of the day, you'll hit those 25, 30 home runs if we give you the chance to do it. So I think some of those decisions are going to have to be that moment for the Cardinals where they have to make those choices of what they want to do there. I agree with you, though, about the positions you mentioned in the outfield in particular. Like, is O'Neill going to stay healthy and be good? We don't know. I'm kind of high on Lars Nootbaar. That wasn't a guy that I would have traded, and the Cardinals obviously felt the same way. And then you got to remember, too, Jordan Walker could end up in that outfield mixture. And I'm not saying he's going to come be the MVP as a rookie, but he could be rookie of the year. Like, he has that ability. There's a learning curve and a growing curve for such a young player. But if you added that guy to a group that can stay relatively healthy, I do think the offense can be in good shape.
Yeah, and so we're going to talk about Walker. And every year there's the new bright, shiny object, and Jordan Walker is a huge prospect, not just for the Cardinals, but all of baseball. But I think you bring up a great point with Nolan Gorman, because last year when he's hitting all these bombs at AAA, everybody's saying, bring him up, bring him up. He comes
Right.
up. He's actually pretty dang good. He's above league average as a rookie. I know he got sent down, had a big hit in the postseason, still hit, 14 homers, whatever it was for the
Yeah.
Cardinals, a bunch total. And, I mean, this dude could hit 28 home runs this year, and we kind of have, I don't want to say forgotten about him, but it's like, hey, could we trade him this offseason? We haven't even really seen what he can do at all for a full season yet.
Yeah, and like the trade thing was back when it was like you could end up going for a Brian Reynolds, right, with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Like, I was thinking, okay, that's a guy that you know what he is. And so if you are able to, and another guy who does hit left-handed. So you're like, okay, if that's something you're going to do, I could see trading Gorman in that sort of deal. Or maybe if you wanted to get a superstar catcher, but you end up going for Contreras in free agency. But otherwise, yeah, like, I just think the thing is the Cardinals do have to commit to playing Nolan Gorman if they're going to do it. And I think this year they're going to be willing to put him in DH more than they were last year with him as a rookie. And the other part of what happened to him down the stretch, it was kind of a perfect storm where he was struggling at the plate, wasn't getting the consistent at-bats, which then made him struggle more. And then this guy, Albert Pujols, was chasing 700, and turns out didn't matter if it's a lefty or a righty on the mound, they're going to DH him every single day. I sort of asked Ollie a question this spring about, like, you guys were going to be strategic with the DH, and then he just played Albert. Like, good strategy, makes sense. But I think maybe that's where Gorman could also fit in. And the other part of this is like, don't forget about him, because I don't think the Cardinals are. This spring, Ollie Marmol was asked, like, who showed up to camp and just physically looked different or looked really good to you? And the name that Ollie Marmol said was Nolan Gorman. He said he looks really impressive physically, made some changes in the offseason to get himself ready. So, like, there is a world in which he does that. He has that 28 home run season, and yeah, he's going to strike out a bunch. Like, it happens in Major League Baseball these days that guys strike out. But with Gorman, as long as you're getting the payoff of the power to counteract the strikeouts, I just hope to see the Cardinals willing to make that trade-off instead of going, he's not really hitting. It's going to be Brendan Donovan or, whoever else it ends up being. If they want to trust Nolan Gorman, I think they got to commit to doing it.
And speaking of specimens, Jordan Walker, whatever he is, 6'5", 220, it looks like eventually he's going to be able to carry 240 in good weight. I mean, that dude, he's a big dude, strong guy. I know we always joke around like the ball sounds different coming off the bat of certain players, but man, like he's had such a meteoric rise. Cardinal fans can't wait to see him. I mean, what do you think the chances are that he actually breaks camp? I think he's going to play for the Cardinals in 2023. I think everybody agrees with that. But what are the chances he breaks camp with the team, you think?
I think he would need to have like an Albert Pujols 2001 type of spring training, which he's going to have the chance to do, by the way. With all the guys going to the World Baseball Classic, I think they're going to throw him out there a lot and give him playing time in Grapefruit League. So if he's hitting like crazy and like holding his own against Major League caliber pitching, I think you could see him on the team. If I had to bet on it, I'd bet against it, though. Not really because of anything Jordan Walker I'm expecting to do wrong or to not thrive with this spring. But like, I think it's going to be so over the top to be able to get the Cardinals, who are historically all about that 40 man and about keeping those guys. And like, look at the outfield and the number of guys they've got, unless a number of guys of the Dylan Carlson, O'Neill, Newt Barr, there's Alec Burleson. There are other names I'm forgetting. Unless a couple of those guys get injured, where you maybe just are afforded the opportunity to stash them on the injured list and it doesn't count against your roster. Like, I think it's going to be hard for Walker to crack his way in. But I do think like by early in the season, especially if he goes to AAA and it's looking right down, because remember, he's never played in AAA really all that much. I don't even know if he went up there at all last year. He didn't even get like the Dylan Carlson when he was coming up. They gave him a month at Memphis in September and it looked good. So they're like, okay, we can trust this. He hasn't even played there. So for Walker, I think it can go really well. I think there's a chance he makes the team, but it's almost got to be like a historic spring to get the Cardinals to go, okay, forget all that stuff that we normally do with like tinkering with rosters. We're just going to bring him up and play him every day because he is that good. Outfield defense is the other thing, though, that we got to keep in mind. He just started being an outfielder July 31 of last year when they traded Bader to the Yankees. So there's probably a work in progress situation there that could also factor in. But for me, who cares? Like, if the bat is the bat, you need to bring him up, but it'll probably be a little bit later in the summer if I had to guess.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Cardinals are boringly good every year, but they're also boringly predictable in how they do business. I mean, John Mozeliak, again, we got 15 years, whatever it is, worth of data of how he likes to run his team. And you just know they're going to give the O'Neill, Carlson, Newt Barr trio at least the first opportunity, and in my opinion, a ton of opportunities to fail before they go to the next man up. And the next man up could be Burleson. And then after that, it's somebody like Jordan Walker, just because it seems more Cardinals-like to start him at AAA.
It does, but the one thing I'll say about that is like the incumbents are getting a lot of attention because Ollie Marmol hasn't really praised them that way. He's not calling them incumbents. He's saying like guys like O'Neill and Carlson know that they're coming in here to earn a job. And actually seeing from camp this week that both of those guys are sort of getting reps in center field, which is maybe another aspect of that competition, because if you wanted to theoretically leave a spot open for a Jordan Walker, it would probably be on one of the corners, right? And so if Ollie Marmol's going, if Walker's out there, he already said Newt Barr's playing, which is kind of interesting given that last year he was sort of not getting those opportunities in April and May. That's the one guy that Ollie Marmol has said, he's going to be part of our starting mixture. So you could kind of connect those dots to say, okay, Newt in one corner, Walker in the other. Maybe there's an opportunity where Carlson and O'Neill have to sort of duke it out. Typically we think of competition in spring and we go, okay, that's fake. There really isn't. We know what's going to happen. at least so far, they're talking about it differently, which it kind of does sound the same when they say every year, oh, there's competition. No, there's not. But like they've been self-referential to that fact. Mozeliak even said, I know we say this every year, but here's why it could be different this time. So I don't know. Like, I do think you're not going to use the spring numbers in Grapefruit League. And like guys like O'Neill aren't even going to be here. So I don't know how they're going to do that when he goes to play for Team Canada for a while. It is going to be a little bit different. But yeah, if you were looking to more of the same for the Cardinals, you feel like you can predict it. But maybe they'll surprise us this time. I would welcome that.
It is funny though, and you were there. I try to not just read all the comments, but I try to see the video because sometimes it's the way somebody says something.
Yeah.
You got to love the fact that for John Mozeliak to even mention Paul DeYoung, he has to preface it in a way like he knows the joke is coming. And so you mentioned Nootbaar. I think it's the classic kind of old school baseball versus new school analytics. I'm very high on Nootbaar too, but I can understand why people are like, he had one good half. Did he hit 226? Whatever it was, I can't remember. But we're all going crazy over drive line numbers and these predictive stats, which I'm all about. But I can also understand why maybe we should pump the brakes because I feel like people think Lars Nootbaar is going to be Babe Ruth this year.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so don't anticipate an all-star season, although he could do that. But what I would say is, like, Lars Nootbaar sucked at the beginning of last season. He would tell you that. But also, he wasn't getting to play. The Corey Dickerson thing, they were trying to figure out how to divvy up that playing time. And there were multiple times where Lars Nootbaar was sent to Memphis because he was just riding the bench and wasn't doing anything in St. Louis, and he would do really well and come back up. Once they committed to started really playing him every day, the numbers got a lot better. He was hitting like 150 for the longest time with an OPS below 600. He finished the year, I think this is right, I haven't looked for a while, but I kind of have committed it to memory. I believe 788 was his season-long OPS. That's one of the higher marks on the team, and it includes all of those bad games from the beginning of the year. So, I don't know. I feel like he's not going to be maybe a batting average guy. If he is, look out, because what he will do is hit the ball hard. That's the drive line stuff. He's going to hit doubles. He's going to run into his home runs, and that could make him that kind of 240, 250 hitter who takes his walks, gets on base like 330, 340, but then is slugging close to 500 to where you could look up and go, oh, Lars Nootbaar is an 830 OPS. That is closing in on all-star territory with good defense that he's probably going to play in right field. So, yes, pump the brakes, I guess, unless you're realistic about the way he could basically replicate what he did last year. Like, he doesn't have to do a lot more cumulatively. You just would hope it's a little bit more balanced out. Don't be really bad and then be incredible. Just sort of stagger it throughout the year where you're a little more consistent. If he finds that consistency, there's no reason he can't be one of the Cardinals' better hitters on the team.